Of course, if you are familiar with Yorgos Lanthimos with Poor Things, and of course, Killing of a Sacred Deer, and Dogtooth, as well as Lobster, and all those, and The Favorite, kind of flushed out a kind of a singularity theme. I'll get a little more into it when we get into more of the show.
Yeah, it's like they took all of his movies and made 3 more of them.
Yeah. So I won't fault you if you missed the opportunity to see Kinds of Kindness. It kind of went out pretty fast in the theater. So it gets the opportunity now to see it. Let's talk Kinds of Kindness.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
Hey, I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. Thanks for finding us. Thanks for watching. The fans, thank you for continuing to support the show. We do have a Patreon. Check that out for some great deals, great contents, and, of course, an opportunity to tell us a movie that we review on the show. And, of course, a shout-out to you as well. Both Kyle and I are members of the Minnesota Film Critics Association. Check out that webpage for critics' reviews as well as ours. And today we're talking about Yorgos Lanthimos' latest film, Kinds of Kindness.
A triptych fable. This is the story of a man who has never been in control of his life, a husband who suspects his recently returned wife is harboring a secret, and a cult member in search of a spiritual leader.
Okay, it's not a big surprise if you've ever seen his movies yet. There's a sense of dominance and control.
Yeah.
Subordinate, insubordinations and stuff like that. Very prevalent in his movies, very prevalent in Poor Things. But this is kind of interesting. It's a triptych, and it's kind of dangerous when you do a triptych.
Every time you do this is an anthology movie. Every time you do an anthology, there's ones that win, there's ones that lose, and all you can really hope for is that there's a cadence, that there's at least a good one every couple, so that way it kind of moves along. This is three ones that run about 45 minutes apiece, like episodes of a TV series. Mixed bag.
Right, I would agree. Kind of like, I do like the cult one for some reason. And
for me, I think it started out extremely strong. I love the first one. The first one, if that
Jesse
was a movie, I would have watched that whole movie, loved it, would have been one of my favorites of the year. Second one, kind of 2 separate stories almost to an extent. There's the search for the wife, and then when she comes back, she might not be who she says she is. And then I really didn't like the cult one very much, except for the finale.
Right, which is very him.
Yeah.
This octane. Right, it's almost like you want to punch that movie, though. You want to flush these all out a little bit. Have your own little space. Starts off really great.
Yeah, that first one is so good.
Yeah, and Willem Dafoe. And I love how he doesn't give you enough exposition. You're just jumped into the story. He's not going to spoon feed it to you, but you have to soak in what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
And of course, that's kind of surprised because Margaret Qualley in it.
Well, in classic Yorgos Lanthimos mood, he gives you a character, RMF, that appears in all 3 stories, and then tells you nothing about him.
Right.
So,
yeah, like you said, he doesn't speed food. But also, that is kind of the prevalent thing of your mind is filling in the blanks of whatever he's seeing. Mm-hmm. He'll set the camera down, and there's the mansion. Like, what are we doing here? And the car pulls in. And there's a music setting, but that's fantastic. Right?
Yeah.
Right. And of course, it's his perception of how to set up the film.
Yeah, and so I think there's, in much the same way you have anthologies, great collection of scenes. There's sequences in all 3 stories that I think are fantastic, that are ludicrously funny, that had me on the floor. It's just when those scenes weren't happening, especially in the second and third story, I was really in and out of excitement with the film. Yeah. I really enjoyed the fact that Jesse Plemons is playing a person who's basically, in that first sequence, has his entire life told for him, and he's happy that way. He doesn't want free will. He doesn't want choice, because when he's presented with it, it's too much to handle.
Right. Yeah.
Which is very much a thing, like that is very much a critique of the audience in a lot of ways. A critique of people who pray for free will, but then really just want to kind of stick with the original stuff.
I'm glad you pointed that out, because it felt like Willem Dafoe is manipulating, almost like the director manipulating to the audience. No, try that again. That interest doesn't really sell it to me. Yeah, it feels like a movie-making process in the beginning.
Well, and so often, especially right now in film, we have this nostalgia bait that shows up in so many movies, which is you don't want something new. You want what we have at home. You just want another one of those. And people get kind of frustrated when things aren't adapted the right way, or a sequel doesn't go in the exact same direction, which is kind of crazy. I want something different. And I think that's what he's playing with that first film. Now, the second one goes completely off the rails. I have no idea what his real attempt is with that story at all.
I think it's a challenge to him to see how extreme they can get. Almost like David Lynch. Let's just throw reality out. almost, and then somebody's gonna no, we have to bring it back, David. Right? Yeah, and it feels like that. It feels like let's just go extreme and see what the, after all the success and accolades, let's do something bonkers.
Because I'll tell you that sequence. I mean, it's one of the weirdest things I've seen in any recent movie. Yeah. When the man has lost his wife, she doesn't think she's ever going to be found, and they're like, "Do you want to watch the video of us?" And I was like, "Oh, I bet there's a really nice video." And he lulled me into the fact that I thought he was actually and he took it away from me. Was one of the weirdest things. Yeah. If I was ever invited to someone's house and show, I mean, of course those guys are in the video, but if I was invited to someone's house, oh my God, that would be a lot.
So it's prevalence of kind of this, I don't know what is happening. There's always that sequence when there's movies. And then it's almost when you go to the conclusion that you kind of flesh out all the things. I think it's kind of better. I had to watch this twice. And I think if you watch it a second time, it kind of takes it in a little bit when you know what's happening.
Yeah, when you can really kind of take a step back. And once you know the stories, I think that's what actually works with a lot of his films. I think most of his movies get better on a second viewing.
Right.
I think the only one that I out and out thought was great, just leaving that theater, was Poor Things. Like, that's the one of his that I was like, this is fantastic right from the get-go. Everything else I was like, I think I might have liked it. I don't know. Like,
I think I like this.
But the problem is his movies are so unpleasant that I don't often want to go back for a second watch. So
the other aspect, and I talked about his central theme that he's always investigating, is control, dominance, and subordination. But also there is the conversation, the dynamic of sex in play. Every one of his movies. Yeah. Whether it's used to gain a head or for pleasure, or it's just for another aspect to establish control. And I think you get to this, I was like, where are we going to have it? Right. We get in here, too.
Well, and especially in the third piece as well, you've got this cult leader who's, trading wives with the other guy around, and they've all slept with the cult leader. And, I mean, at the very beginning of the short, they're inspecting Hunter Schafer's body to see if, they're capable of being the next, Messiah. And, of course, with Margaret Qualley, there's right on the outset, you see all the fact that basically they're removing clothes, examining people in so many ways. And I think that sex interplay is all about control from the third story.
Because it kind of, the reason why I'm saying like in The Cult, it reminds of his first film, Dogtooth, where you expose the nakedness, there's no way to hide, right? And not to mention you're under a microscope of an inspection of your physical self. And it kind of feel you're naked alone and you don't know what to do. But also that was prevalent with Dogtooth, with the dominant dad in the family.
Yeah, and of course the control factor is very prevalent in the first one. And of course with the second film, there's very much the idea that the world you think that we're in is not the world. This is not the real world that we're in.
Yeah, there's a behind the subtext.
Camera. And the same thing with the cult. The cult itself is not the real world, but these people are living in it. So there's all these forms of control, these forms of enclosure and cages.
That's also another thing of his prevalence. That's why I think you picked The Favorite. You have this queen that's just locked in the castle. She has
she has her world.
Yeah, her idea of what the world is like outside of her own.
Yeah. And I think that's the fascinating thing about him is he finds different ways to essentially go about the same kind of business.
Yeah.
But he's doing it in a way that feels fresh and still like him at the same time. It's very peculiar, the fact that he's able to accomplish this frequently. And that's why I think, even though this one's a bit of a mixed bag, one of these short films is genuinely amazing. And I think the other two are fine.
These are all aspects of his signature of him.
Yeah, and that's maybe why the anthology thing for me doesn't work as well, is because we're being told very similar types of stories.
Yeah.
And I almost wish they had just cast them differently and didn't have them all in the same one.
I'm great, and we're kind of ending that at. If you're going to do a triptych, please don't do something else.
Yeah.
Right.
Look at Creepshow. Creepshow is a great anthology of shorts because all 5 of them are drastically different.
Monsters, but then you have this, you
got Stephen King growing a vine out of his butt, like
cockroaches and all that. Yeah. So it's kind of a mixed bag of kind of kindness. We're kind of the same thing.
We're kind of in the middle.
Start out strong and then it kind of leads in, but I kind of appreciate the cult aspect because I think that's his signature thing that he wants to talk about.
Oh, and I did think that ending stinger with RMF at the sandwich place, that had me giggling too. So I will say that at least it ends on a high note,
right?
For not liking the last short as much as I did.
So keep the conversation going. Put a comment down below. Hit the like and subscribe button.
Yeah. What's your favorite of the 3? What's your least favorite of the 3? Give us your ranking. You've seen all 3 because you sat through the movie, I assume. So let us know down there. And thank you for checking out another episode of Kyle and Nick on Film. You can check out all of my 2025 film reviews. And in fact, I'm doing a new breakdown of Severin's 4K of 2020 Texas Gladiators over on GoatFilmReviews.com. It's Penny Post-Apocalypse, and I love it.